So now that we've applied the base colors to both the track itself as well as the ties or sleepers, I'm now going to apply some ground cover in the area of the rail yard, and do that before the ballast again, so that the ballast goes on top of ground, and it's the transition between the two layers is a bit more natural. I'll still add some other elements to blend it all together later on, but I'm going to start with basically the underground with the dirt. For that I'm going to be using up my leftover Scenic Express ground. I bought some new material for the rural farm fields and all that, but here I can use some sand because I'm going to be using airbrushes and all sorts of other methods to make it grimy, like you would expect on a rail yard, with weeds and growing and bits of grease spilled and whatnot. So it's not the healthiest area. So to do that, it is quite fine. So I am going to try and layer it on top of glue, rather than doing the wet mist method or droplet method that you would do with the ballast later on. This stuff is just too fine. I think if I do a droplet or a dropper on top of that, I just create little craters. So I'm going to do at least a base layer of this by applying glue first and then that on top, and I can always put additional layers on top if it's not quite to my liking. So we're going to see what that looks like. Okay, so we've got, whoops, so we've got some diluted glue. I'm going to apply that just around here. Not going to be too precise. And I'm just going to do about 4 inches at a time, just to see how this pans out. If I don't like it, we're going to go over the top again. And as I said, this is just to put the initial layer down, right up to the railroad ties. There we go. Let's give it a shot. So here's the dust. A little bit on the spoon. I'm going to carefully tap the spoon. That's enough. I'm going to use a brush in a minute to spread it out. Continue a bit more. Look at that. A little bit more. Oh, stop it. Shaky hands. Had a cup of coffee, so that's what happened there, but don't worry about that. There's a hoover for that to get it all away. So as you can see, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I've got accidents. And that is no problem. So here I've got a little fan brush just to spread it out carefully and controlled, as you can see. I'm doing the same here. Just carefully along. And there we go. And that's how we'll do the entire yard. And here's the result of the first application of dirt. Still needs to be tidied up, but this bottom layer first needs to dry, and then, as I said, we're going to use a vacuum cleaner to hoover up the loose bits on top, and then we can work on the second layer after that. So we're now come to probably one of the most precise or tedious spaces, a task I should say, and that's the applying of the ballast. Now there's many different ways. There's ballasting tools, and you can do it by spoon. Some people like to sprinkle it with their hands. I find all those methods a little coarse, and over the years I've always tried to find various different ways. I mean, I do have a ballast spreader tool as well, but I found it just puts on a little bit too much, and I want a bit more control. So I've come up with this. You'll know these plastic pipettes that you can buy in the craft store for mixing paints, and this one actually I've used for paints before. Now if you cut it open at the back, you kind of create a bit of a spoon. Cut the tip off, you create a bit of an opening. Now the trick is this. I've got my pot of ballast here. I don't know if you can see this. I'll just scoop some ballast out. Not too much. Make sure I keep my finger on the other end and carefully bring it down into my pipette. And now I have an applicator that very gently I can use to very carefully apply ballast in between my ties and have a reasonable amount of control over it. I know this is very slow. That's what I want in this case. I'd rather apply a little bit too little ballast than too much. There you go. Just keep on going until the pipette is empty. And I'll just refill it. About there. Oh, nearly. Good. I think I was a little bit stuck there at the beginning, I suppose. It's a little bit of trial and error at the beginning. Get the right feel for it, but you know, even if it's a little bit too much, I always use a brush to kind of spread it a little bit, but careful with the amount of pressure. You don't want it to jump all over the place, but if I just do this, I can clear the tops of the ties, and the ballast is nicely in between. And that's how I go about and bring the initial layer of ballast in. As you can see, that looks quite good. So after all the ballast has been applied, I mist it wet with wet water, which is water mixed with some washing up liquid and a couple of drops of isopropyl alcohol, so that it breaks the surface tension of the water. It doesn't form droplets on top of the ballast, because if you don't do that, the ballast will start floating on top of the water and it'll destroy the results. So once it's nice and wet, we're going to use a pipette again to drop in white glue and let it flow out in between the ties and throughout the ballast. And don't worry, it'll dry up transparent, so apply it liberally and it'll be okay. Just and obviously afterwards you need to vacuum, make sure the loose bits are gone, but yeah, just apply it liberally and make it nice and wet. So once the ballast is dried, as you can see, it's transparent, it's got its natural color back again, and it looks good. So that was that for this episode. Thanks for watching, and hope you join me next time.